She pointed her finger right at my face and shouted, "You owe the HOA $15 million!" The wind was still tearing through broken fences, neighbors were still sweeping water out of their ruined homes, and yet I stood in front of my house, the only one on the block still standing. People stopped what they were doing and turned toward us. Karen, the HOA president, waved a crumpled piece of paper in the air like it was law. "Your house didn't fall. That means you rigged something. You brought this disaster on us." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My roof was still on, my walls were solid, and yes, my home was safe. But instead of gratitude, all I saw in her eyes was rage. She yelled again, "Either you pay what you owe, or we'll take your property by force." Neighbors gasped. Someone whispered, "Is she serious? 15 million?" I clenched my jaw but didn't say a word, because the truth was, I knew something they didn't, something that would flip everything upside down. I finally spoke, my voice calm but steady. "Karen, you're accusing me of causing a hurricane? You hear yourself?" She smirked like she had already won, like the crowd was her courtroom. "Don't play dumb. No house survives like this unless it's a setup. You're hiding something, and the HOA will uncover it." She slapped that fake-looking paper on my chest and hissed, "15 million in damages. Pay up, or we'll make sure you lose everything." A man from across the street, his home nothing but broken wood and water-soaked carpet, shouted, "Karen, you can't do that. He didn't cause the storm." She spun on him like a snake. "Stay out of this, or I'll add fines to your account too." People started whispering. The doubt in their voices was clear. Why was she targeting me when I hadn't lost a single shingle? That's when Karen raised her phone high and announced, "If he doesn't cooperate, I'll have the police here in minutes." My stomach tightened, because I knew the police she was talking about weren't real cops. They were her friends, guys who wore badges she printed off the internet. And once they showed up, things could turn very ugly. Her threat hung in the air like thunder. I saw two black SUVs roll slowly down the street, tires crunching on broken branches. My gut twisted. Karen had actually called them. The doors opened and 3 men stepped out, cheap uniforms, shiny badges that looked like toys, and one of them even had his belt buckle upside down. But the neighbors didn't notice. They saw guns and thought it was real. Karen spread her arms wide. "Officers, arrest him! He's the reason this whole neighborhood is destroyed. He refused the HOA's safety protocols, and now he's hiding the truth." They started walking toward me, hands on their belts, and the crowd stepped back like I was a criminal. One of them barked, "Sir, hands where I can see them." My daughter peeked through the window, and I felt my blood boil. I raised my hands slowly, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted everyone to watch. Because in that moment, I decided to end this game. I stared at Karen and let the words fall heavy. "Funny thing, Karen, you forgot who I am. You think I'm some ordinary guy?" I leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. "I'm the one who trained half the sheriff's department in this county." The fake cops froze mid-step, their fake badges catching the sunlight. For the first time, I saw panic flicker across Karen's face. The crowd went silent, like even the wind had stopped to hear what I'd just said. One of the fake cops glanced at the other, his hand slipping nervously off his belt. Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I stepped closer, my voice steady, low enough that people leaned in to catch every word. "I know real law enforcement, and I can smell a fake badge from across the street." Gasps rippled through the neighbors. One of the men tried to bluff it out, flashing his badge higher. "We're here on official business." But before he could finish, I pulled out my phone, tapped once, and the screen lit up. The live feed from my security cameras played on speaker. "You mean this business?" Everyone saw it. The footage of those same 3 men laughing in Karen's driveway 2 nights ago, rehearsing their little cop act, even holding up the fake papers she'd printed. Karen's face turned red. She screamed, "Turn that off! That's private!"
But it was too late. My neighbors had already seen enough. A woman across the street muttered, "She set this all up." And another man added, "She wanted to frame him." I looked at Karen one last time, my voice cutting through the whispers. "You wanted me arrested? No. Tonight it's you who's going to jail." I didn't stop at the driveway video. I tapped again, and this time the audio played. Karen's voice, cold and steady, recorded at last month's HOA meeting. "We'll target the ones who survive, collect from the insurance, and split the rest." The words hit the street harder than any gust. Heads turned toward her like a chorus of accusation. She sputtered, That's fake. I never—" But the recording kept going, crystal clear. Before she could scramble, I reached into my jacket and waved a thick booklet of papers. "And this," I said, letting the edge show, "is the original deed and the county record. The HOA was dissolved 10 years ago. Your authority ended the day you started pocketing money." Murmurs rose like a tide. Someone shouted, "So she's been lying the whole time?" A small boy yelled, "My mom paid her last month." Karen's face drained of color. She lunged forward, voice breaking. "Those are forgeries. You can't—" I cut her off, calm as a judge. "You printed fake notices. You made fake cops. You made fake rules. Every one of those fines is theft." A woman from the crowd held up her phone, showing bank transfers to Karen's account. Another neighbor, the quiet carpenter who'd lost his shop, shook his head slowly. She used our pain to get rich. Karen tried to grab the papers, to turn the tide with threats, but the neighborhood had turned into a courtroom. My daughter came outside then, small and fierce, and stood beside me. She looked straight at Karen and said simply, "You hurt my friends to make money." The line landed like a punch. People cheered, not for me, but because the truth was finally out. I let them feel it for a moment, then said softly so only Karen could hear, "You wanted 15 million. You wanted to steal our loss and call it victory. You picked the wrong block." Her hands trembled. For the first time, she looked less like a queen and more like a woman who had been found out. The next move would decide everything. Karen's last shred of confidence snapped like glass. She waved frantically at the fake cops. "Don't just stand there, arrest him." But they didn't move. One of them shoved his badge into his pocket, muttering, "We're not getting involved in this." Another climbed back into the SUV and slammed the door. The third just stared at her, then at me, and whispered, "We're done," before walking away. The neighbors erupted, some shouting at her, some demanding their money back. Phones were out everywhere, cameras rolling. Karen spun around in circles, her hair whipping across her face, shouting, "This is all lies! You're all ungrateful!" But her voice cracked. She wasn't in control anymore. That's when real sirens cut through the night, not the cheap sound clips from her little crew, but actual police cars, lights flashing red and blue, pulling into the street. The crowd parted, and a uniformed officer stepped, now a sergeant. His eyes locked on mine, and then he turned toward Karen. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for fraud, impersonating law enforcement, and extortion." Karen shrieked, "No! He set me up! He's the one you should be arresting!" She pointed at me, shaking with rage. But the sergeant didn't even glance my way. He nodded to the other officers, and they closed in on her. Karen tried to back away, still screaming, still spinning lies, until the handcuffs clicked. The sound echoed louder than her words. The neighbors cheered, some even crying. A man who had lost his whole house shouted, "Finally!" And another woman whispered, "Justice, at last." I bent down to my daughter's level, pulling her close. She asked quietly, "Is it over?" I kissed her forehead and said, "For us, yes. For her, it's just beginning."